Hey everybody, hope all is well. We're continuing the Indisputable Truth book series. We're on in the third edition of the book. We're on page 43, and we're on proof number 9 of Pangaea. And basically, just what we're deciding before, we passed through, the existence of God. We proved the Torah, and we disproved, the other religions, other major religions. Now we're on the topic of, how do we know the Torah is from God? And we said the idea that if you see information in a book that there is no way a human being could ever find out about, or know at the time the book was given. For example, if the book it was given 3,300 years ago and it was predicting events such as the Holocaust, 9/11, and crazy other events, there's no way a human being could write that, because how can somebody know the future like that or predict stuff like that, or know information that at the time when you didn't have the technology, there's no way to know that information. And we gave so many different we're actually on the astronomy section, and we gave the different proofs of how the Torah knew the renewal of the moon, the amount of stars in the universe, how Earth is in space, the sun, the different shells of the sun, the Big Bang. The Torah described the Big Bang word for word. All those ideas, how the universe is stretching. Ideas that there's no way a human being could know thousands of years ago. We only know these things today because of science and technology, but back then there's no way a human being could know. So let's go to proof number 9 of how we know the Torah can never be made by a human being and only been given by the creator of the universe. So proof number 9 is Pangaea and continental drift. Okay, this is really nuts. So let's read it inside. At one point in history, the 7 continents of the entire world, Africa, Antarctica, Asia, Australia, Europe, North America, and South America, were all combined together in one supercontinent known as Pangaea. So if you see the picture here, and then right here, here's a picture in the book. I don't know if it's clear. So all the continents were one supercontinent called Pangaea. Over time, the process of plate tectonics separated each of the component continents into 7 continents we see today. This idea of Pangaea and continental drift was posed by the scientist named Alfred Wegener in the book called The Origin of Continents and Oceans in the year 1915. Modern geology has shown that Pangaea did actually exist, meaning that you could see from the scientists brought that you could see that Pangaea is a legit phenomenon. And obviously the proofs for Pangaea, just the main 3 pieces of evidence, are the fact that the puzzle-like fit of the continents, for example, the west coastline of Africa fits like a puzzle into the eastern coastline of South America. Idea number 2, that many fossils of the same species have been found across continents. Some of these species can't swim, so there's no way to get across the ocean. And idea number 3 is that in geology, the study of rocks of these continents, which fit like a puzzle, match up. Like, for example, I think it's called the Appalachian, I don't know, something like that, mountains of the USA continue into Ireland and Scandinavia. In other words, the same rocks and mountains found in 2 different continents. Like, imagine you see the same mountain, just in the geology of the rocks continuing on from South America and Africa. It's like, it looks, again, you could see it's like a puzzle. The idea is Pangaea is a real, is probably it's scientifically proven that there has been Pangaea, that this whole idea of continental drift. And now let's see what the Torah has to say about it. So now when we go to the Torah in the book of Genesis, where it describes the creation of the earth, the verse states that God said, "Let the waters beneath the sky," and by the way, the verse is Genesis chapter 1 verse 9. Okay, it says, God says, "Let the waters beneath the sky be gathered into one area, and let the dry land appear." And it was so. By the way, if you look at the image, this is how the continents look today. So it went from this to this. Okay, I don't know if you can see it here. So this is how it looks now. Whoever is reading the book could see in the pictures on page 44. So the idea is the Torah said, "Let the dry land appear." By saying the word land in the singular tense, okay, instead of the plural, the Torah is telling us that when God created the world, he initially created just one body of land. In other words, just one continent. In addition, the Holy Zohar tells us, the Kabbalah, the Jewish mysticism that's also been passed down for thousands and thousands of years, the Zohar tells us that one single continent came out of the water, and from it, multiple continents were formed. Okay? Now, if the Torah was made up by people, how can they know such information so long ago? Once again, this is another piece of compelling evidence that the Jewish Torah is given from the creator of the universe himself. The idea is, again, we only knew about Pangaea because we live nowadays. We have scientists, we have technology, we have geologists, we have, whatever, historians, we have all these different, people, different fields of specialty that are able to, get that information and make sure it's accurate, that this actually happened. Yeah. And the idea is what? How did the Torah, the ninth verse of the Torah, written 3,300 years ago, know that the world was one supercontinent? Again, it's called divine information. Proving what? That the Torah can have never been written by a human being, but only been given by the Creator, because the Creator knows how He created the world. He knows everything. Now, that's it with the astronomy proofs. We just finished all the past 9 astronomy proofs. Now we're on biology proofs, meaning we're giving different categories of proofs. So that was the field of astronomy. Let's give biological proofs, okay? Circumcision and blood clotting. The Torah says that one of the 3 covenants God made with the Jewish nation is Brit Milah, circumcision. Every male has to be circumcised on the 8th day after his birth. However, if God commands His children, who He loves, to perform a surgery, He will surely make sure that it's done in the safest way possible to avoid any casualties. Science has shown us that prothrombin, a protein in blood plasma, is what prevents us from bleeding to death once we get a cut. Prothrombin clogs any cut, ensuring that we do not lose all the blood in our body. Scientists of the past few decades have found and published something incredible about the level of prothrombin. I'm saying it wrong. Prothrombin. It's a kind of hard word to say. Prothrombin in a newborn's body. So scientists basically came out with a study of the level of prothrombin in a newborn body. Okay, so here's the study right here. It's a little bit hard to see, but the idea is just to read you the study, and if you're following along in the book, it says scientists tell us at birth, to just explain the chart, scientists tell us at birth a baby is born with little prothrombin, and any cuts or bruises on a child can be life-threatening. So if you have a baby before the 8th day, if it gets a cut or bruise, it's very dangerous because they don't have that special protein in their blood to create a blood clot. However, every day there's an increase in the level of prothrombin in the body. And on the 8th day of a baby's life, something extraordinary happens. On the 8th day of life, a child receives an additional 10% of prothrombin. Only on the 8th day of a person's life do they have 110% prothrombin levels in their body. After the 8th day of life, the level of prothrombin decreases and never goes back to the extra high level. Okay, this is a study by Macmillan. Whatever, you can see in the book if you want to see the source for the study. So the idea is what? The idea is scientists proved that when a baby, if someone had to choose the safest day to do this surgery called Brit Milah, circumcision, to remove the foreskin on the baby's private part, the best day in the entire life of a baby is to do it on the 8th day. Okay? Now, the question is, how did a human being know that? Come on, how many babies did they have to go through until they figured out that information? Okay, the first 8 days, and the 8th day is the top day they get it, and every day after that, how can they calculate that 10% different, 10% difference in the levels, thousands of years ago? Only God could have precisely made it that the baby's level of prothrombin would be at the highest level on its 8th day of the baby's life, which is the same day that He commanded the Jewish people to circumcise all male children. God specifically made it that the prothrombin level will be at the highest level on the 8th day in order to allow circumcision to be performed in the safest way possible. Again, how did the Torah know this information? Obviously, it had to be an information given by the Creator of the universe Himself. Okay. Now, let's go to the next proof. Proof number 2 in the category of biology. The uniqueness of the pig, okay? The Torah says that for an animal to be kosher, it must have the following 2 signs. It needs to chew its cud and have completely split hooves. So chew its cud means, forgot the term, there's like a scientific term for it. But the idea is chew its cud, that it chews its food like a cow. If you ever see a cow eating, it chews on its food, it swallows it, it goes into I think it's called the rumination, okay? And it goes into its stomach. It like digests it in its stomach, then the cow spits up the food into its stomach. A cow has multiple stomachs. It spits up back the food into its mouth for more chewing and more digestion. And based off that, it swallows it again to break down the food even more and get its necessary nutrients. So that's the idea. So it needs to chew its cud. That's number 1. And number two, in order for an animal to be kosher, it has to have split hooves. Now, we're not talking about horse hooves. Those are not split hooves. We're talking about completely split hooves. So if you ever seen the hooves of a cow, it's like completely split hooves. It's not like a horse hoof that has like maybe a lot, like a little line down it, but completely split hooves. Okay? Now, the Torah tells us, as the verse says in Leviticus chapter 11, verse 1 through 8. So I'm going to read this verse in the Torah. Okay, as the verse says, God spoke to Moses and Aaron, to Aaron, saying to them, speak to the children of Israel, saying, these are the creatures that you may eat from among all the land animals. Okay, any animal that has a split hoof, okay, that has a split hoof, which is completely separated into double hooves, and that chews the cud, such you may eat. Okay, the Torah then goes on to say, the pig, for its hoof is split, and its hoof is completely separated, it does not chew its cud. It is unclean for you. You shall not eat of their flesh or touch their carcass. They are unclean for you. Okay, that's Leviticus chapter 11, verse 1 through 8. So the Torah tells us, any animal, you want to know what a kosher land animal. We're not talking about sea creatures, we're talking about land animals. Okay, and we're not talking about cows and stuff like that. We're not talking about chickens. Chickens are considered off. It's a separate category. The Torah uses the word behema and chaya. So those are the term for, like, behemot are like, animals that are that you would keep in a barn, right? They're not wild animals. I forgot the word for it in English, but so, like, cows, sheep, goats. Those are animals that people would have herds. They would have barns for them. Then there's chayot. Chayot are wildlife animals. Like, for example, deer. Deer chooses kind of have split hooves, but you don't have a deer. Deers don't live in your farm, or in your barn. The idea is those are the two types of animals that the Torah says, and those animals have to have split hooves and chew their cud. Now the Torah tells us, like I read in the verse, the only animal in the world that has split hooves and doesn't chew its cud is the pig. Meaning, you will never find an animal that has split hooves and doesn't chew its cud but the pig. So, if it has both, it's kosher. It's a kosher animal. But you'll never find another animal. Again, the Torah says the pig is the only animal in the world that has split hooves, completely split hooves, and doesn't chew its cud. So again, if someone wants to say a hippopotamus doesn't have completely split hooves, you can't. That's not what we're talking about. We're not talking about any other type of animal. The pig is the only animal the Torah lists. And I searched into it. I tried myself looking for any other animal that has completely split hooves and chew its cud. No, I couldn't find any other animal. And I listed. I searched every website, searched every book I could think of. Asked professionals in the field. Couldn't find. The pig is the only animal that has split hooves and doesn't chew its cud. So what? Okay, so what's so great about that? The Talmud quotes this verse and tells us that if a man who is walking in the street finds an animal whose mouth is severely damaged, cut off, and it is therefore unable to determine if the animal is kosher, because as he can no longer see if the animal chews its cud. Imagine you go in the street, the Torah is telling you, the oral Torah, and you find an animal that, let's say its mouth is chopped off, and you don't know what type of animal is this. I see split hooves, but I don't know, I can't see the face of the animal. So is it a pig? Is it a deer? Is it a sheep? Is it whatever? We don't know. The idea is it's a case where you don't know if you don't see the face, but you see the split hooves, okay? So if the man finds that the animal has split hooves, he can use the animal as long as he knows for certain that it is not a pig. This is the Babylonian Talmud, the tractate Chulin, page 59a. This is because, according to the Torah, the pig is the only animal in the entire world that has completely split hooves but does not chew its cud. To this day, we have never found another animal that has completely split hooves but does not chew its cud. Remember, the Torah said this about 3,300 years ago. Now, if the authors of the Torah were human beings with a limited understanding of worldwide zoology, how is it possible that this claim has been corroborated thousands of years later in modern times? It seems that whoever wrote this must have had information on all the animals that lived on the earth. Moreover, as early civilizations over 3,300 years ago had no satellites, no internet, no cameras, it would have been impossible for them to identify every existing mammal on the globe. There were areas of the world that mankind had not even inhabited it, and thousands of species whose existence at that time were not known to man. When the Torah was written, they didn't know every single creature. They didn't have Google. They didn't have WhatsApp. They didn't have ChatGPT. They didn't have how can they, like, if I'm making up the Torah, if I'm a human being, I'm trying to make up a new religion, right? How the heck would I know that this is the only animal in the world that has split hooves and doesn't chew its cud? We know today that there are at least 8.7 million animal species in existence. To claim that the pig is the only animal that has completely split hooves and does not chew its cud, a person must know the internal anatomy of 8.7 million different species. We also know that there are billions of animals that are currently alive. For example, there are about 24 billion chickens currently living in the world, and that's just one species, okay? If the authors of the Torah, right, if there's authors, if it was a man-made document, obviously it's not, but if the authors of the Torah had some strange reason for wanting us to keep kosher, they could have accomplished this without having to specify the precise number and names of animals in the world with only one sign and not the other. No human being trying to pass off a forged Torah as divine would deliberately include statements which are bound to be proven false and risk exposing himself as a fraud. Only a supreme being, God, can know for certain the characteristics of any animal in the world because he created them. Okay? The idea is what? This is another piece of divine information. Information no human being in the entire world could ever by themselves, figure out. There's no way a human being can know exactly, how many out of all the billions of millions of species, but there's billions of them, of cows, sheep, lambs, chickens, whatever, all the animals make a claim. Yeah, you know what? The pig is the only one in the world, in the entire universe, that has split hooves and doesn't chew its cud. Again, information that no human being 3,300 years could know. And again, it's written straight in the Torah that this is the only animal, right? There's no debating that. And the Talmud even is there to, confirm that idea in practical ramification in Jewish law. But the idea is, you see from here that the Torah must be given from the creative universe, and it can have never been made up by a human being. So with that being said, let's finish there. We're on proof number 3, and we'll continue for next time. Thank you so much for listening, and take care.